All right, all of the average charges for each of the procedure codes are only based on that Commonwealth of Virginia charge, claims against the Commonwealth. Everything else, though, each of the community figures and the statewide average at the far right are based on data from Anthem, which we believe to be fairly representative given the size that Anthem is. So just to help you read the document, our first procedure code, the average charge in claims against the Commonwealth of Virginia was $126. Taking Anthem's data for Community 1, average prevailing community rate is $99. And you can see that there's not a lot of fluctuation really across Virginia's 15 communities for that charge. Right. The next one is the MRI. A little bit more variation there. Interestingly, the average charge for the Commonwealth claims was almost $3,000, a little over $2,000 statewide under Anthem. Prevailing community rates.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing, Commissioner Williams. The Virginia average and the Virginia state, will you restate what the difference is between those two?
The first column represents solely data from claims against the Commonwealth, which we thought would be somewhat representative because the Commonwealth has employees in all the communities. So I just want, there's going to be some, you can't get every possible charge, so we used two databases. One was claims against the Commonwealth of Virginia. They're the employer, employees of the Commonwealth, filing workers' compensation claims against the Commonwealth. All right, that's what average charge in the first column is. The statewide average is the Anthem, is based on the Anthem data.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I restate that to make sure I'm getting it right?
Yeah.
So the Virginia average is workers' comp payments where the state is the employer.
That's correct.
And Virginia state is private insurance payments where Anthem is the payor.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so as I say, they're very similar for the first CPT code. The MRI, there's a little bit more fluctuation there. You know, you've got some close to 3,000, some 1,700, just within the various Virginia communities. The next procedure is physical therapy. Again, that's fairly consistent across the 15 communities. The next one is the arthroscopic knee surgery. Again, you'll see some variations there. You know, 1,700 all the way up to a little over $7,000 for some of that. Some in the $3,500, $4,000 range. A lot of variance in arthroscopic surgery market. And then the last one is the pain management injections. And again, there's some wide disparity in among some of the communities there. So then we took that data and we took both the Commonwealth of Virginia claim average and the Anthem statewide average and compared that with the fee schedule amounts in Kentucky, Tennessee, Maryland, and North Carolina. And those comparisons are set out on page 4.
Yeah, that's the most helpful page to me, I believe, on what our neighboring section. Delegate Farrell.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make sure I reiterate and just piggyback off Delegate Habib's question to really make sure on page 4. I just want to make sure. So when it says Virginia average, that's comp. So that's when a Virginia employee is getting.
That is when a Virginia employee files a workers' compensation claim against the company.
So it's a Virginia employee.
That's right.
And then basically Virginia, in parentheses, state is private.
That's based on Anthem data.
And that's the average cost.
That's around the state.
Now, with the percentage code, this is the average workers' comp cost, or is that just Anthem's average cost when they're doing any claim?
What are you referring to?
So basically what I'm saying is you have the Anthem number, which is the Virginia state average, right?
Correct, 105, for example.
But is that just Anthem's overall average, or does Anthem do workers' comp claims?
No, it's just Anthem's. It's just Anthem's. It's the average charge submitted to Anthem.
And that's how the prevailing community rate.
Correct, it's based on charges.
It's based on
These aren't payments. That's not the average Anthem payment.
That's the average
None of
cost.
this is right. None of this is payment. It's all charge because that's what the prevailing community rate is based on.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may ask another question.
Sure.
Do you have any idea what the average payment is compared to the charge?
Do not.
Okay. I imagine it's not quite similar, is it?
Doubt it would be more.
Yeah.
But, no.
Certainly less.
Delegate McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to further make sure we understand what we're looking at, so in each of the 15 communities, those are private, like just would they compare more to the statewide or the?
Yeah, what that is the, and maybe I should have just not put them in the same table and it would have been less confusing. But with respect to the Anthem data, ignore that first column on page 3 that says average charge. That only pertains to claims against Commonwealth. There's no Anthem data in that group, for example. But everything else is Anthem data, including the statewide average. And I probably should add, I'm sorry, just for clarification, I should probably add that the statewide average, for example, on the office visit thing there, it's shown at 105.28. That was not calculated by just adding up each of the rates in the 15 communities and divided by 15 because there's not the same number of those visits occurring in each of the 15 communities. So it's all of those charges throughout Virginia divided by the number of those procedures.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. So what we see here is, just in layman's terms, columns 1 through statewide is the average cost. Just when someone walks into the doctor's office, this is what they were billed on average in 15 communities and statewide.
That's correct.
Versus what someone who submits a workers' comp claim was charged when they went to the doctor.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And the statewide number would include both public and private. This would be anybody. Would it include like state employees? Yeah, state employees, private employees,
I don't know if
everybody.
yeah, if it was a non-workers' compensation claim.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, the first column with average charge is only going to be workers' compensation.
Yes, I just have a question on the surgeries, and I'm sure that's really diverse because you list knee and orthoscopic and those types, but the difference when you look at, of course, it jumps right out at you. Fairfax has 7,000 compared to 1,800 for the Commonwealth. Where does that disparity come from?
They're actually looking into that to see what the basis for that is. It was suggested that possibly they might be including the cost of their ambulatory care surgery center in that. It's unclear, but all we could go by was what the code, the CPT code reflected, and that's the number reflected for that community.
It's Sharon. It's followed closely by Loudon in number 10 too. So maybe they're both using some unusual data there that needs to be relooked at because most of the other ones are still relatively close.
Right, they're around 2,000, 1,500 somewhere around.
Roger. Thank you for doing this and putting all this together. But let me try to drill down in the weeds a little bit. And if you go to page 3,